And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire you whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Welcome to the Guerilla Roundup of the first day of the World Test Championship final between India and Australia at the Oval in London. I'm delighted to say that for the very first time, Colin Souter has agreed to join me for tonight's roundup. Welcome, Colin.
Hello, Messi. How are we doing?
Good, good. Thank you for joining me. I've decided to change things up a bit. We've always tried to do a 90-second summary of today's play at the beginning of the broadcast, and it's never been less than 3 minutes. And I thought what I should try to do is set an example by going for less than that, hopefully doing it within 90 seconds, for which I shall set a timer. And it's relatively easy if I remain disciplined. So I'll see how I go with that. And then we'll move into discussion of what happened today. So I shall summarize and then go to you, Cole. You right with that?
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Okay. So the day started with India totally on top for 15 minutes. They won the toss. They chose to field. And they left out Ashwin in favour of having 4 pace bowlers. They also picked Virat instead of Ishan Kishan as keeper, which we'll talk about a bit later. And the third over, Australia were 2 for 1 when Khawaja was out, caught by Virat off Siraj, and we're looking in a bit of trouble. Next wicket to fall was David Warner, who was strangled down the leg side off a pretty ordinary ball from Thakur, and the score was 2 for 71. Warner made 43 from 60 deliveries, which left Labuschagne and Smith together, but after lunch, Labuschagne was out for 26, bowled by a wonderful delivery from Shami for 26 off 62 balls, which put Stephen Smith and Travis Head together. There wasn't another wicket in the day's play. Smith ended on 95 not out from 227 balls, and Travis Head made a spectacular 146 not out from 156 balls. So at the close of play, Australia were 327 for 3. The wicket takers were Shami, Siraj and Thakur, all of whom went for between 3.5 and a little over 4 and over. Yadav and Jadeja bowled at about the same economy rate without success. So that's where we stand at the end of the day, 327 for 3. India only managed 85 overs and would have had even fewer even though they had half an hour overtime, would have had even fewer had it not been for Jadeja. So that's where we are at the end of the day. Colin, what are the most notable points from today, from your point of view?
Oh, I think the biggest start-off point is I was with you at the very beginning when you says 3-day game, here we come. And I was watching this opening hour thinking, my God, it's doing stupid stuff, this pitch. It's really green. Overcast conditions. I could well see 6 down here before just skittling the rest sort of thing. And then I think after the hour, it just turned completely. Within that time, it went, okay, this is going to be a 5-day pitch quite easily. It's not going to do anything for anyone. The pitch became slow and low. It just became a batsman's dream.
Indeed.
Biggest takes from it, probably, I'd say Warner playing really well. 43 from 60. It was a hard hour of batting. You could see that from Khawaja getting a duck, and then when Labuschagne coming in, it was still quite a difficult pitch to play on. That he ground his way to a 43, and he's going to be kicking himself that he could have been. I think he knows there was 100 left on that pitch for him now.
Mhm.
if he just played that little bit longer and didn't strangle one down. From India, Siraj looked really good when he was under the pump. When he had a bit of fire, when he was going at people, looked really good. But it was few and far between because the Indian team just looked like they were dead on their feet from, you would say, just after lunch. It looked like the IPL season kind of took its toll on them, where the preparation of getting miles under the legs it's not really been there. Maybe I guess Pujara is about the only one that's been playing any red ball cricket.
Yep.
And what can we say about Head that's not everyone already knows? He's free flowing batsman. He's going to take you on. Siraj went after him. He just went, "Oh, I'll take you back." And it was quite a good matchup.
The feeling I had for Head initially was that he was taking his chances, but sooner or later he'd come unstuck. But in fact, the longer he played for, A, the easier the wicket became, and secondly, the more he saw the ball properly. So he
Yeah.
wasn't edging it. The closest he came to getting out was a really hard hit shot through the gully, which the gully might have been able to get to, but I think made a judicious decision not to even try because he might have blown his hands off.
It might
And it just
it
shot
might
off
have
the
got a John
full.
T. Rhodes double catch kind of attempt or something like that. But
Yeah.
if he caught it with straight off one time, that would have been a spectacular catch.
But the other interesting thing about Travis Head's innings is, he hit 22 fours and 1 6, but there was no point in it when he seemed like he was slogging, even though he
No,
was going at a runner ball. It was a well judged innings. I wouldn't say it was an innings of massive style, but it
no.
was very effective, and he just accumulated those fours without having to be in any way ridiculous. He did sort of ramp a shot over the wicketkeeper's head for 6, which was
Oh
actually
yeah,
perfectly judged.
yeah,
That was just a gimme in some ways for someone who's been used to playing so much white ball cricket.
yeah,
But overall, it was very measured innings. Smith's innings was a big contrast, though. Do you want to describe that?
So yeah, the way I described Smudge, it was a man in searching for form. So it just became quite early on. I'm not going to play my shots. I'm just going to defend. I'm going to see through. I'm going to find my eyes in the middle, get through some time in my legs out in the actual pitch, and then eventually, I think it was after lunch that he started, or was it? No, it was after he got sort of in the late 40s that suddenly the gearing started to come up a bit. When he was like, right now I can be a bit more adventurous. Now I can start playing, and a couple of the shots look like Steve Smith we know, the
Yep.
old days of taking it off the offside and drilling it down um, past mid on, mid off. And you kind of go, yep, this is it. It's coming back. We can feel it here. But certainly at the very beginning, it was more of a grind. It was a more of a I've got to do this hard miles first.
Well, it's interesting when you look at it. His 50 came off 144 balls. Since then, he's faced 83 balls and made 45.
Yeah,
So, yeah, he's upped his rate very considerably in the second part of his innings.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so the Indian bowling, I mean, I agree with you. There were some very good deliveries, particularly early on. I thought Siraj got a lot of bounce out of the wicket, and it showed a variable height in the first hour or so. There was one that got up and hit Labuschagne on the finger, which was just rose
Oh
from
yeah,
a length. And yet there was another one about 4 overs later that kept really low. And that's when I thought, oh, this is going to be a 3-day test. But there was very
yeah.
little evidence of any of that happening later on.
Even Shami was doing a good test in line and length quite early. That was
Yeah,
just deviating enough
Yep.
It didn't need to be. Thakur came on, it was hooping a bit.
Well,
I'd maybe argue it was doing a bit too much for him. Kind of.
well, Thakur went for a lot of runs very early on. I think there was one over where he got hit for 4 4s, which led to Anindo being fairly florid in his language about it.
Was that not Yadav?
Oh, sorry, that was Yadav. I do beg your pardon. Yeah.
Yadav was bowling terrible at the start, and it wasn't even a ninja being harsh. It was glaringly obvious that it reminds me on young bowlers when they first come and playing the game. Right, I'm going to be express. I'm going to be quick. They're not going to manage to hit me for the wheels that's going to come off me. And all of a sudden, it's like too short, too full toss. And then it took him, after getting hit around, to then go, right, I'll just take my time.
He came back over the wicket, and his next over, he had 2 LBW shots, both denied, and both reviewed. One of them was umpire's call, and the other one was going over the stumps. But it was like a different bowler altogether at that stage.
Yeah, they played it well. Well, Labuschagne played it well. You knew what he was doing. He was coming a good foot outside his crease, knowing well that anything that's on his pads, it's going to have to be pretty plumb. Yeah. Otherwise, it's most likely either going to be going down leg side, impacting outside of off, or going straight over the wickets anyway. So I think he kind of had it under control.
Ravindra Jadeja bowled 14 overs for 48. I think it's fair to say he never looked in the least bit threatening. What's your feeling about the selection of him over Ashwin?
To be honest, I think it's a bit of a dead one, to be thinking about it. I don't think either of them would have done. The pitch is just not conducive to slow bowling at the minute.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You can maybe play around with the fields and bowl to a field, but in a final, I think ego's got a little bit more, right, I'm going to be trying to bowl wicket balls here. But it's no way there's a spinner's pitch there on day one.
Oh, it's not a spinner's pitch, but you're not going to get through 85 overs in a day without having some spin. My gut feeling is that Ashwin has more guile and puts more thought into each ball. I mean, it's lovely for India that Jadeja gets through an over in about 90 seconds. That's the only way they actually bowled 85 overs in the day. But with Ashwin, there just seems to be more thought goes into it about working the batsman, and let's face it, really good spinners take wickets on balls that don't spin because they just wear the batsman down with the consistency and the frustration that can come with that. There's no sense of that with Jadeja bowling. Ashwin can manage that, in my judgment.
Even the non-striker runouts that Ashwin is known to be, it's just another mind game to try and deflect and get into batsmen's heads. You're like, okay, you stay where you are. Just you stay there.
I mean, the sense was that the last 6 or 7 overs Jadeja bowled weren't about taking wickets; they were just about getting through overs.
No, we just want to see the new ball.
That's exactly right. Now, the fielding I thought was pretty reasonable on the whole, but they chose to go with Kas Bharat rather than Ishan Kishan. What was your judgment as someone who has kept wicket of his performance?
I didn't like some of the techniques I was seeing from Bharat. It looked like, and I get it from at times when you see early Bairstow. It was a person who is forced into keeping rather than a person who is a natural keeper going and developing their games into batting or into other kind of fields.
Yep.
He was taken. I always like to say that if you're bowling a right-hander and you're keeping, you should be moving to your right as the bowler coming in, and you're trying to take the ball into your inside so that you've got fresh movement, you've got a big wingspan to onto your right hand side to take any deflection, deviations, and you've got maneuverability of your arms to move. A lot of the time, Bharat's hands were right in, he's like into the breastbone, you could imagine in there, where your wrists suddenly become rigid. So if there's any deflection, any deviation, you're suddenly like some sort of penguin trying to move. You can't move your arms, you can't move your hands. That's what I felt with him. And you've seen it quite a lot where it was, I think, it might have been Thakur at the early beginnings where it was hooping. It was bending, and it wasn't just bending side to side. It was up and down lateral movement as well. And it kept on hitting him in the wrists and the fingertips because he was so inflexible that he couldn't get down to actually take him. So it looks like a weak link for India. Not that they're producing much edges, should I say.
Yeah, it's true. So looking ahead, where do you see this going tomorrow?
Yeah, I think you can't but not say it's going to be a high declaration. And in all honesty, I can see it being banned for most of the day again, tomorrow again.
Yes.
But I can't imagine India being much of the change.
Yeah.
They'll have a morning maybe to worry about when it's slightly overcast conditions, but then after that it's still going to be flat, still going to be low.
Yep.
And Pujara, Kohli, these guys can do this for fun as well, of just grinding it out. So I can only see a draw coming, personally.
Only a draw. It will be interesting to see whether that happens or whether the scoreboard pressure that if Australia can create it will push India into some sort of collapse. So that's where we stand at the end of the day. The two things to nominate is the tweeter of the day and the gorilla of the day. The tweeter of the day turns out to be Mog, because there was a shot on screen of the mace for the champions that is there. Very elaborate trophy. And it was suggested that Mog would be able to make use of that, to which he replied, that mace would be fine for a one-off murder in a darkened library, but fuck all use in a battle situation. That's the Mog we know and love. And there is also no doubt as to the gorilla of the day, who is our much-loved Anindo, whose support for India is no secret, and he was becoming extremely frustrated with, who was it? Did we say Yadav who was bowling?
Yeah, Umesh Yadav.
Yadav was bowling dreadfully and went for four fours in the same over. And Anindo just said, what mindless fucking bowling, which is most un-Anindo-like for those of us who know him.
It's very Guerilla.
It's very Guerilla. So undoubtedly the gorilla of the day. So that wraps up the Guerilla Roundup for today. We look forward to being with you tomorrow for tomorrow's Roundup. If you like this, please click on like below and share it with all those who might be interested. And we would love to have your support. Just go to guerillacricket.com/Patreon if you'd like to support us to the tune of anything from $2 to $10 or whatever more you may happen to have. We need the support to keep doing what we do, because it's not cheap to maintain all the equipment and the bandwidth and God knows what else. But most of all, we love having your company. So if you've got something to say, put it in the comments below, or tweet us at Guerilla Cricket, and we'd love to have your company. So that's it for tonight. Thank you all very much for being with us. Thank you very much, Colin, for your debut, which I thought went really well.
No problem. Anytime.
Thank you. Okay, good night all.
Good night, folks.
And now it's time for